Gabriela Sabatini in 3 sets, a 3rd set tiebreaker. Chris Evert Lloyd against the number 11 player in the world currently, Manuela Maleeva of Bulgaria. And here's how they arrived at this semifinal. First, Chris Evert Lloyd, who has won 8 times the family circle, Bud.
A shocking opener for Chris Evert Lloyd because Petra Huber, an Austrian, had dyed her hair. She's now a blonde. Chris said, I didn't know who she was. And Petra got more games than she'd ever gotten from Chrissy. Debbie Spence, the Californian, and Bettina Bunge, very talented German who has been a Wimbledon semifinalist.
And Maleva, you said, Joanne, has actually played more perfectly, less airs than Chris in this tournament.
And she really hasn't had a challenge. Penny Bark from Miami, she destroyed her 1-1. And then Michelle Torres from Chicago, 6-2, 6-0. The only challenge she had was Zina Garrison, 6-2, 7-5. It was pretty close in the 2nd set, and she got a little tired.
I thought she got quite tired. Zina fought and fought and fought to get to 5-all, then played a loose game. She might have won that match.
She really had a chance because Manuela was fading.
Well, Manuela and her sister Katrina, both in this tournament, sometimes known as the Powder Sisters. But Manuela looks happier these days. Romance has entered her life.
Yes, I think so. She met someone in Switzerland, and her boyfriend is here, Francois. And he actually practices with her, which I find amazing.
Francois Franget, the Swiss national team coach. Maleva now 20. She, her style, much like Chris Evert Lloyd's. You said Powder Sisters?
The Powder Sisters, yes. Katrina and Manuela have never been among the happier looking players on the court, but they're very nice young ladies. Who was that sneaking into the net on the first point?
Oh, but you make so much fun of Chris's net game, but she is so solid. In doubles, she now has more prize money this year than she does in singles.
Well, we saw that in Marco Island in the Chrysler doubles, how well she can play the net. But we like to give her a little rib now and then.
In the chair, Bunny Williams.
Local umpire, and she's done a good job throughout the week.
Nervous first 2 points for Maleva, love 30.
Chris is coming into the net early. I mean, before we used to have to pay her to get into the net. And look, she stretches for a ball there, and Manuela just gets it over her head on this next point.
She actually closed out the victory over Bunge with a volleying point.
Well, Chris, that's the game. That's the part of her game that's really improved.
Both women learn their early tennis on clay, feel comfortable on this surface, and Chris enjoys meeting anyone on the clay at any time. And of course, her French Open win last year dramatically here on NBC extended her record of 13 straight years she's won at least one Grand Slam title. So this surface has been like walking into a comfortable living room for her. She likes it here.
And one of the reasons I think Chrissy's going to be around for quite some time yet is I think she'd like to represent the United States in the Olympics next year.
Forehand on the line.
40-30.
Manuela doesn't really have a great serve, but it's it's pretty good. I mean, she gets some knees into that, but she doesn't really get into the court very far. That means her body's not really getting into the serve.
Well, there's an ace. Good enough. And Maleva from low 30 wins the opening game.
Makes the unique craft.
Chris Evert Lloyd. 14 previous championships here at Hilton Head. She's won 8 of those. And very proud of the fact that she's sitting on 149 tournament titles. Like to make that a nice round 150.
15 all.
She has been ill the last couple of weeks. In fact, an ear infection. She said as late as yesterday could not hear out of that right ear, and it's disturbing. She can't hear the right sounds when she strikes the ball.
That's disturbing to a tennis player.
Forehand from Maleva.
15-30.
And it's low 30.
You like to hear the ball, Joanne, and that's the reason the spaghetti racket was outlawed in 1978, because you couldn't hear the ball coming off the racket.
Yesterday, Maleva was playing Zina Garrison, and Zina strings her racket very loosely. You could barely hear it.
A triple break point for Maleva. Well, it's true of any of us. You get water in the ear, or you have a ear infection, and you just can't wait for that ear to pop, and that's been the case for Chris all week long.
She's waiting for the pop, and if you hear a loud noise, that may be it.
So losing her serve at love. Chris Evert Lloyd falls behind this early going. The winner tomorrow here on NBC will meet Steffi Graf, who has moved into the #2 spot in the world behind Martina Navratilova, and it's a strange position for Chris Evert Lloyd since they started in '75. Never has she been lower than 1 or 2.
Very cautious twosome out here. Yesterday, Maleva was wailing on that forehand. Usually when you hit wide to Maleva's forehand, her best shot is back cross court, so it's not really advantageous. At least it wasn't to Zina hitting wide to Maleva's forehand.
We had a graphic noting that only win of Maleva over Evert Lloyd, the Italian Open in '84, and that day was a banner day for Manuela because that was her 3rd match of the day. They were backed up by rain in Perugia. Ooh.
Whoa!
Outside in and hits the line.
Low 30.
And here's this cross-court forehand. Look, she runs wide for it, and she smacks it, and Chris just barely gets there down the line, right on the tape for a winner.
Oh, that forehand flying.
15-30.
Yesterday when she played Bettina Bungie, it was a battle of the nervous forehands. Bettina, when she gets nervous, she has no topspin on her forehand, and Chris is the same way. You notice that was a side spin forehand.
Good serve by Maleva. From low 30 to 30 all.
30 all.
All week long, people have been saying, can Steffi beat Chrissy again? But Chrissy isn't there yet, and Manuela would like to be in that final.
chance to break back for Chris Evert Lloyd.
30-40.
You can hear the wind has picked up a bit. The temperature right around 80 degrees, not as warm as yesterday. It must have been at least 100 down on center court mid-afternoon. That breeze will be comforting to both participants.
Unless it blows a stroke beyond the line.
It's long and breaking back. Chris Evert Lloyd. She'll be serving 1-2 when we return to Hilton Head. Beautiful Hilton Head Island. Two early breaks. It's 1-2. Chris Evert Lloyd serving in this first set.
He is ragged.
You made an interesting point, but that Chris Evert Lloyd might have designs on competing in the '88 Olympics in Seoul.
Absolutely. As it stands now, the federations in each sport will be allowed to designate what degree of professionalism their athletes have. You know, there's no such thing as an amateur athlete, but tennis will apparently be allowed to use all players.
Follow up on that point, Steffi Graf, the youngest competitor, won the demonstration in the '84 Olympics representing Germany, won the gold medal.
Been a long time since tennis was in the Olympics, 1924.
Ooh, Chris is missing a ton of forehands.
She hasn't won a point on her serve yet. Another love game. First double fault for Evert Lloyd. A shaky start for the 8-time champion.
Well, I've never seen such a bad start, that she would lose her first 8 serving points.
Well,
Like
last week she played in this exhibition doubles with Pam Shriver, and on the big point of the match, she double faulted and foot faulted at the same time.
Currently in the world on the computer, Martina #1, Graf moving up rapidly in the second spot, then Chris Evert Lloyd, Hanna Manlikova, Maleva, the 11th player in the world. We have baseball to follow. The Atlanta Braves and the Mets from New York, or some of you will see the Giants and Dodgers in Los Angeles. But if time permits, prior to the start of baseball, we'll show you some of the other semifinal match played this morning between Steffi Graf and Gabriela Sabatini. Excellent match. Wind blowing that one wide. She's not involved in the tournament. Hanna Manlikova, her coach Betty Stova, watching from the players' terrace.
She was entered in the doubles with Chris Evert Lloyd, and Chris went to Hanna and said, because of my flu and the ear infection and everything, I really would like to concentrate on singles. So they defaulted to doubles.
And she actually said it was okay because she pulled a stomach muscle in the indoors the week before. So
Hanna did, yeah.
Yeah, Hanna did.
40-15.
Maleva, what she is doing to Chris is off-pacing the ball, taking the pace off, mixing it up, then booming one down the line for a winner. And against Chris, she loves pace, and she can really get into a groove. So you'll see lobs, and it doesn't really sound like Maleva's hitting the ball hard. She's just taking the pace off, and also she's stringing her racket a lot looser. So Chris said she's having trouble hearing. Well, she's certainly having trouble hearing Maleva's ball.
Wide, and Maleva has a 4-1 lead. Semifinals of the Family Circle Magazine Cup. Oh my, there have been only 25 points in the match, and Evert Lloyd with 13 unforced errors. And Chris has played in over 1,250 pro tournament matches. Can you imagine her ever starting more poorly? 9 straight points lost on her serve.
Gee.
I mean, I played Chris in her very first tournament when she was 8 years old, and she hit more forehands in than she's doing now.
So that's where it began, your streak of experiences, shall we say, with Chris Evert Lloyd. 0 and 1.
On the line. That's 10 straight points. Lost by Evert Lloyd on serve. Yet to win a point on her serve.
The reason why Manuela Maleeva has such a good slice backhand, here it is, lands right on the line. She started out with a one-handed backhand.
Wow.
And then her grandparents sent her a World Tennis magazine with Chris Evert on the front. And her mother asked her, would you like to change to this backhand? And she said, sure. So that's why she actually has a better slice than Chris. And her backhand is very, very similar to Chris's. Oh, Chris disguised this so well. Good racket preparation and bink. Winner drop shot. I love it.
There you saw again, Maleva mixing up the pace. Another break point.
And Maleva's two-handed backhand. Look, nice preparation. And notice how she follows through up over her head. If you watch, Chris does the same exact thing. One of the very few backhands that are just like Chris's.
Really a thoughtful game played by Maleva, mixing up her shots and her pace. Breaks Evert Lloyd for the third straight time in the first set and has a 5-1 lead.
And disbelieving folks here, 5,000 full house, because this tournament has belonged to Chris Evert Lloyd. This is her 11th entry in the family circle. She has won 8 times. In the Open era, no player has won any one tournament more than that.
last two balls, she sliced beautifully on those wide balls. And for a two-hander, if you have to go out that wide, it's really hard to go down the line. So instead, Maleva uses her one-handed slice, takes the pace off, chips it down the line. She really is playing smart.
That's the 18th unforced error by Chris. And Maleva playing as she has all week, not making any mistakes. She's committed only 7.
And all week long, 15% were unforced errors. 15% all week. That is an amazing stat.
Chris was at 22%.
Which I wouldn't say was very shabby. I mean, 22%, that is amazing. You notice how every time Chris tries to force the pace, put more oomph on the ball, get her into a hitting rally, she tosses one up. She tosses a big topspin lob up. Every time Chris hits it deep with pace, a lob comes back. What you're going to have to watch for is to see if she can keep that up.
Long, and by my count, Bud, at double set point. By my count, Chris in this entire first set has only 10 points won. Set to Maleva. Unbelievably easy set for Maleva. We'll be back after these messages from your local station. Welcome back. First point of the second set. This crowd in shock as Manuela Maleeva, allowing only 10 points to Chris Evert Lloyd, breezed through that first set 6-1. First set, unforced errors, a total of 18 against Evert Lloyd, only 7 by Maleva. 26 minutes for a 6-1 set. Cut the line. So Joanne Russell, you lose to Maleva 6-1, and you're Chris Evert Lloyd, and you know her well enough. What can she do differently? How is she going to try to spur herself here in this second set?
Well, I doubt that she's going to serve and volley because her serve has been letting her down. That's the big thing. But she's got to hit some ground strokes with confidence. I mean, she doesn't have to go for the line. She just has to hit a few solid ones, and I think she should go cross court with her forehand.
The winner will meet tomorrow in the finals. 17-year-old Steffi Graf of West Germany. Exciting semifinal match with Gabriela Sabatini. She won 7-5 in the third set, tiebreaker to advance. She's not been beaten all year. Game of the second set. So Chris Evert Lloyd has held her serve for the first time in the match. Win the first game of the second set. Maleva did not win any titles in 1986. He was a finalist 3 times. And her opponent, of course, the big win was the championship at Paris, the French Open, last May, June.
She adds a dimension.
Manuela has always had this dimension, Bud. She gets over there for that volley, and a lot of times people relax against Chris, and notice how she closes in at the net and gets that volley back. She's a very good doubles player. She and Katrina, her sister, have won a lot of big tournaments. Not major ones, but other ones that we consider big.
Any win's a big one, isn't it, Joanne?
It is.
This would be a wonderful day for Manuela's grandparents. They were not in Perugia, Italy when she beat Chris Evert Lloyd for the only time. They are American citizens who came from Bulgaria about 20 years ago. Mike and Tina Berberian, who live in Florida, and they're here somewhere in the crowd. We've been trying to find them. And their daughter Yulia came to the United States with them and decided to go back to Bulgaria to marry the girl's father, George.
George Maleva, who was on the 1960 Bulgarian Olympic basketball team. So the first chance for Chris Evert Lloyd to take the lead, and she has a double break point here, second game, second set.
Well, you notice that Chris is going for the cross court. It's a much higher percentage shot than down the line. The net's lower in the middle of the court. You've got a good chance to get the ball in, and that's how she's got to get her confidence.
She takes a 2-love lead in the second. Evert Lloyd, as we said, 149 tournament championships, a record for men and women. And among the 149, 18 Grand Slam titles, 7 times the French Open champion, 6 U.S. Opens, 3 at the Big W, and 2 Australian championships. And 13 consecutive years she's won at least one. The consistency of her trade.
Unprecedented. And today she's trying for her 50th match win in this tournament. She's won 49 of 51 previous matches in the Family Circle Cup. Maleva's outplaying her thus far.
And there's that forehand. She has actually gone back to her old forehand. Dennis Ralston worked on giving her a topspin forehand, but if you notice, she's hitting the ball inside out, and it puts that side spin on the ball, so if you go down the line, just goes wide if you're not confident in your shot. And when you're nervous, you go back to all your old bad habits.
she hit it, she knew it.
Oh, you cannot just put the ball back in place. She set it up so beautifully, and watch this. She sort of wimps it back over there, and that's goodbye to Chris's backhand. She might as well have gone to her forehand for sure. Go to the weak spot.
Another verb by the neologist, Joanne Russell, who gave us caged. She has now given us wimped. You are marvelous. William Safire will love you. That was neither caged nor wimped.
No, that was very aggressive forehand.
15-30.
But that cross-court forehand is her favorite. She closes the face of the racket. Watch that. The face is facing the ground, and she is ready to whack that ball. Winner forehand cross-court.
Double break point for Maleva. Get back even on serve. So important. I love baseball. If your team gives you some runs, the most important inning is to come back that next inning and shut out the opposition. Chris has just broken Maleva.
She is serving horribly, and she had been serving pretty well.
She did, but last week in that exhibition doubles match, I never saw Chris serve so poorly.
Another forehand error. Maleva breaks back. It's 2-1 in the second. Maleva having won the first set 6-1. Welcome back to Center Court Sea Pines Plantation. A reminder, tomorrow 12:30 in the West and 2:30 in the East for the finals of this Family Circle Cup. Steffi Graf to meet the winner of this match between Chris Evert Lloyd and Manuela Maleeva. Maleva serving 1-2 in the second, up a set.
Very smart play by Chris. She sets this forehand up so beautifully. She moves Manuela around. The ball drops short. Chris comes in behind it, and she goes cross court for the winner, which she needs to do because she has not won very many points down the line. Drop shot seems to be working for everyone these days. Manuela waits to the very last minute and makes a winner.
She lost the point, Joanne, but she hit the ball better in that rally than she has been.
Well, she did, and what happened here, it's much windier than it was in the first match. The flags at the back of the court are whipping, and she just hits that a little bit deep, and I think that's affecting her game.
She did hit some solid forehands and didn't seem to be favoring that wing as she did in the first set.
Had a tendency to be shocked at Chrissy's indiscretions, but the fact is this kid Maleva is playing a fine match. Thoughtful, alert.
She really is, and it's very difficult to stay with your game plan against Chris because it's hard to hit off pace all the time against Chris. You get nervous.
Well, they went strength to strength there. And Maleva the winner in that backhand duel.
And that's pretty unusual for Chris, because a backhand-to-backhand duel, she usually says to herself on the baseline, nobody but nobody wins on my backhand. Instead, she went for the winner. Chris was saying yesterday in her press conference that she felt if she had to go 3 hours with Manuela, she would.
So in a match that has featured a succession of service breaks, Evert Lloyd break point to go 3-1.
Well, if you noticed on that point, Dick, she actually played very safely. Everything went down down the middle of the court. She really didn't go for any lines. And I think if that's what she has to do to get back in the match, she's going to have to do it. And she might have to stay out here 3 hours.
Recovery during that point.
Maleva really hung in there in that point. She moved the ball around, and when Chris forced her, she restarted the point with a lob. And it threw Chris off. She made an error on the forehand side in the bottom of the net. And she's really sticking with her game plan, which is so smart. Now this is the look of a woman who's won more money in doubles this year than singles. Watch how she closes at the net and really punches that volley.
It's one of the best volleys I've ever seen her hit.
Not an easy play.
No, it wasn't.
The lead in this second set, 3-1. A reminder that baseball follows Atlanta and the Mets and the Giants in Los Angeles. And of course, that'll all be kicked off with an inside look that commemorates the 40th anniversary of the late Jackie Robinson's rookie season with the Brooklyn Dodgers. Big afternoon of baseball to follow tennis from Hilton Head.
So can Chris consolidate a lead? She hasn't been able to.
First serve. That was her first one. I was just going to mention that I thought, well, maybe she should go back to her old serve. She's been broken 4 out of 5 times today. She should go to putting it in the court.
Well, we talked earlier, Joanne Russell, about how clay teaches you, forces you to learn patience. Maybe that's one of the reasons why the American men haven't done well in Paris. Their impatience, and Chris having to relearn her own lessons this afternoon against Malaya. How is this clay different from the clay of Europe?
European clay is usually much slower, but we play in different places, and say in Berlin, they put more rocks in their clay, and so it's very slippery, whereas in Paris, it's very fine and very, very slow, unless they get a lot of hot weather to bake it, and then it's just like a hard court.
Oh, double break point, Maleva.
50-40.
Well, Maleva had the game on her racket.
Well, she had the game on her racket, but watch this. She takes a huge swing on this, and she has her racket face closed, and she goes, boom, down the bottom of the net. That was not a real great forehand volley. That was the baseliner volley.
Oh, my.
And then Chris Evert Lloyd double faults the game anyway, so we've had 12 games in this match and 8 service breaks. Back on serve in the second set, Maleva 2-3 after winning easily. 6-1 in the first, and 2 double faults for Chris Evert Lloyd, both at game point.
I think they're back on break.
Back on break, that's right. It's been a disadvantage to have the serve. Maleva's held 3 times, Chris only once in the match.
And you can hear those groans. This is like watching Virginia Wade play at Wimbledon in the old days, because this is Chrissy's court.
Chris gets a good jump on this ball, and she decides to go cross court, and I think she went that way because she's so nervous on her forehand side about going down the line. She's made too many errors. Well, Manuela, in this point, she hits the perfect setup shot. Chris is about to get it, hits the line, and bounces about a foot away from her, and she can't get it.
Tough running volley.
A sneaker.
30-15.
And that's a tough shot, that off-angle volley. Chris's footwork is so good. Now watch, early racket preparation, boom, cross court for a winner. That's a fantastic shot for a two-handed backhand.
Another break point.
30-40.
It's good when you have one stroke that you can always rely on. And Chris's two-handed backhand is the shot.
Bud, you were here for the first one in 1973 with Jim Simpson as NBC covered the coming out party, the first outdoor event really of the women's season, and they played for $30,000 to the winner. That was an enormous sum.
It certainly was, because most of the women's tournaments then, as the Virginia Slim circuit was just beginning, were 10, 15, 20. I remember the National Indoor in Boston. The total purse was $12,500, and to give first prize, Jack Jones was a reckless promoter. But Rosie won it over Nancy Ritchie, one of the finest clay court players of all time. A stunning upset.
Rosie Casals is watching the semifinals this afternoon. It's grown from a $100,000 tournament to $300,000, still one of the richest on the tour.
Balls.
What do you call those, thought balls?
Think a lot before hitting him.
Maleva throwing in a good slice backhand. A point away from 3-all.
Well, I believe it was Harold Solomon, who was one of the great Moonies of all time, who coined the phrase moonball for what he was doing much of his career. And he was tough.
And Chris once again uses that drop shot to her advantage. She goes back like her regular forehand, then comes under the ball, and Manuela has no chance.
At the line. Another break chance for Chris. Tomorrow the winner will play Steffi Graf. Live coverage, $300,000 at stake, $60,000 to the winner. 12:30 in Los Angeles in the West. That's from our little pencil microphone right down at the bottom of the net.
2 baselines she's hit on 2 points. Maleva is complaining, but she better play.
To sympathize with Maleva because there was an obvious out ball not called earlier in the rally. Saw Maleva even stopping play, thinking.
It's a tough time to overrule, and I would disagree with overruling there. Too close. Bunny Williams. It's her prerogative. She overruled the call of out by base linesman Dan Guyton.
You know, sometimes Maleva lets these things get to her. She has been known to complain about a lot of things during, especially those baseline calls. She'll stop balls.
So it's second ball, and Chris Evert Lloyd with a break chance to go up 4-2. In a row, and Maleva showing her emotions.
How much will that eat on Manuela, Joanne? She thought she had deuce when she heard that out call. Then it's overruled.
Well, usually it eats at her a lot. She is, like you said, she's part of the Powder Sisters. Instead of the Pointer Sisters, it's the Powder Sisters. There are 3 of them. And
Who are the Pointer Sisters? I've heard of the Powder Sisters.
A great approach shot. Chris hesitated a little bit. Watch this. One-handed half volley, and then Manuela, good foot speed, has the racket out in front of her. Cross-court winner.
And the slide, which is so important in part of the shot making by Maleva, helped her to get to that winning point.
Most of the European women are great sliders. Oh, I love watching them play on clay.
Pulled a couple of them. I think if Chris could ever hold serve after breaking.
Needless to say, this is not the percentage play. You do not drop shot when you're standing behind the baseline, but she's got a good one.
Quite well taken, but about the breaking back, she broke Maleva in the 3rd game of the 1st set and then lost her serve, and Maleva went on 6-1. She has broken her 1, 2, 3 times in the 2nd set, only to lose her serve right back. But now has a point away from 5-2.
And she really hasn't done anything this set. Chris is, her game really hasn't picked up any. She's just played a little safer. Instead of going for the lines, now she's going for the middle of the court.
I've got to disagree with you a little bit. I'll get back to that.
Serving to stay in the 2nd set at 2-5, having won the first 6-1. But you are about to disagree.
Well, Joanne was basically correct in saying that Chrissy had gotten a little more cautious and was playing basics. But I remember one point when Maleva was trying to break or hold her serve in the 6th game. She was down 3-2 and she was up 30-love. Suddenly Chrissy pulled a sneak volley. Very uncharacteristic. She came up and won the point and started herself toward a lead.
Chris is hitting her forehand a little bit more confidently, but she actually tries a very dainty little drop shot and misses it. You know, sometimes you can go to the well too often.
Good forehand from Evert Lloyd, 30-15.
30-15.
Yeah, when poor Manuela heard the umpire miscall the score on the previous point, 15-all, after she just won the point, she must have really realized she was in the lion's den, which she is. This is Chrissy's ballpark. She's won 8 times.
And there have been some tough calls, and they seemingly have all gone against Maleva.
Yesterday, Dick, a German reporter asked Chris, had she ever gotten nervous in a match where she totally lost her concentration? She said she'd never seen her like that, but she wanted to know if she ever had a match. And she had no, she'd been down so many matches and come back. She said that was really part of her game. She said she never gives up. At least she felt she never, ever gave up in any match.
Just to add to that point,
40-30.
Chris also said, yes, I have been nervous. Yes, I have been worried, but I don't want to show it. Part of my game is to not give my opponent any idea of how I feel emotionally. And of course, we've seen that stony expression through the years, and it's part of her weaponry. On the line.
And it's a terrific part, because her father, Jimmy Evert, inculcated that early. Don't show the opponent you're upset.
And this is a much more confident forehand we're seeing. Notice how she really got her weight into that ball and hit it for a winner. Whew. What Maleva's doing is she's sort of deviated from her game plan. You notice we haven't seen too many lobs in these last couple of games. She's starting to hit the ball a little bit harder. It's so hard to stick with something when you're playing Chris, because you always think you have to hit a better shot, and that's what's against her.
You ought to know.
I've lost a lot of times.
Double fault, and the third. Check that, the first for Maleva. Chris has double faulted twice. Back to Deuce. She has not been the same since that call that she didn't get on a ball that appeared to be long, and then the reversal by the chair umpire that favored Chris, and they played a let. Just wide.
When you say that one point or that one call affected her, Manuela has come out before in the newspaper. In fact, she was quoted in the Times saying that she thought the American umpires favored the American players.
Saving that point, just reaching to throw back that defensive lob at set point.
One of the great battles Maleva had as a junior when she first made this charge that the umpires were favoring Americans was against Carling Bassett, and she kept saying that, but Bassett's a Canadian.
So all of these things affect Maleva in a lot of her matches.
That was in Miami Beach, and the umpire should have been neutral, and I think probably was.
And Chris sets this up beautifully, but Maleva hits a very poor drop shot. It was so deep, and it enabled Chris to get up there in time, and she had about 3 or 4 options, not only the drop shot, cross court, a lot of things.
Was that a tired drop shot, wanting to end the point?
Very tired. Chris looks very fresh.
Maleva saved 2 set points. Back to Deuce. Longest game of the match. 4th deuce. Set point for the 8-time champion of this event.
Well, this can't make Chrissy fans feel very confident. It's just when she bounds within a point of getting even, the forehand gets crotchety again.
17 mistakes on that forehand wing.
The thing to do.
So the 4th set point earned by Chris Evert Lloyd.
I've been waiting for years for somebody to do that against a moon ball. Boy, mark that down on your memory chart. Pancho Segura used to say, that's what they ought to do against board. Cut off that looper. Beauty.
Whoa.
Let's go back to the attack on that short moon ball by Chris Evert Lloyd.
And Chris actually sneaks in. She waits to the last minute, then moves in, takes the ball in the air. That's a great play.
Maleva just hooking that one over the net.
Well, Chris is so surprised on this shot. She just catches it at the very end of her racket. Notice how close it was to the top of the net. Chris didn't make a move for the ball.
From Steffi Graf in the other semifinal as she survived a tense struggle with Gabriela Sabatini. Went to 7-5 in the 3rd set, tiebreaker.
It's a pretty nervous first serve.
the 5th set point for Evert Lloyd. th point of this game. And now the 8th deuce. This game has taken almost as long as the entire first set as Maleva breezed in just a little over 20 minutes, 6-1.
Manuela's a little bit tired. She's catching her breath back there, but you've got 30 seconds in between each point, so she's going to use the full 30. Chris makes a great get. And notice she went for depth, and Manuela, not quite a good lob there. She just hit it right to Chris. Little dink volley.
Evert Lloyd the second set.
Incredible rallies. Chris Evert, great preparation, totally fakes Manuela out. Look at that racket preparation. She just barely gets the ball and puts it down the line. Manuela covered the cross court.
So Maleva went through an entire set without holding service, 4 breaks against. Just as Chris had trouble in that first set.
But Maleva played a better second set than Chris did a first set.
Indeed.
But how disheartened will she be now, Joanne?
Well, I also think that Chris has to watch out for letdown because it was a long game. Both women are tired, and it's her serve, which has been her weakest point of the 2 sets. So she's got to really concentrate and win each point here.
Couple of tired backhands by Malaya. Yeah, she's won 8 times here, and of course the French Open on clay, a 7-time champion, Chris Evert Lloyd. This is where she indeed feels comfortable. French Open will be next on our NBC Tennis Tour, late May, early June in beautiful Paris, where Chris will defend her title, then on to Wimbledon.
Chris tried a 2-handed slice backhand there, and it just didn't work very well.
Third set. We'll return after these messages from your local station. Tournament voted as one of the favorites of the women pros again this past year. And I think you could get pretty good positive ballot from the fans as well. They've been treated to great weather and great tennis all week.
Well, everyone is so friendly here. John Pazik keeps these courts up wonderfully, and the atmosphere.
That's from Dallas. The men active there, the WCT, and John Mcenroe in a tiebreak wins the first set over Stefan Edberg.
That's encouraging for Mack. Edberg has won 3 tournaments this year, and Mcenroe none.
Well, this game becomes a very important one for Maleva. She was very much in charge in the first set, and then late in the second set, Chris Evert Lloyd building momentum, and now after holding her serve to open the third set, Maleva needs to keep her service. She lost 4 straight in that second set on serve.
Regained her confidence here. That was a deep approach shot, and she takes this ball in the air. Look at Chris keeping the ball in play, steps in, hits an overhead. And if you're nervous, those overheads go into the stands.
That's a nice shot making by Maleva in this game. 40-15.
And here is the Chris Evert Lloyd clone backhand. Exactly Chris's form. She hits a winner just like Chris does.
This is starting to remind me of the toughest of their 13 previous matches. 4th rounder in the French Open 1984. Chrissy won at 6-2 in the third, but the score doesn't give you any hints as to how grim, ferocious, and long that battle was.
The overhead, the backhand down the line, and then the forehand down the line to draw even in the third.
Well, obviously she's over that one call that she had in the second set.
6th game, an overrule at the baseline. She thought she'd been jobbed, and it was a very curious overrule. And Chris Evert Lloyd eventually won the game on a break of serve to go up 4-2.
First set 2 by Lloyd and 6 for Maleva, and look what happened to Chris in the second. Put it together after a very surprisingly poor performance in that first set. In case you just joined us late, as she delivers another winner. In the first set, Chris Evert Lloyd won only 10 points as Maleva breezed 6-1.
Overrule. Fault was called by Tandy Smith, and umpire Williams overruled. So both overrules have gone against Maleva.
2 things that Chris has improved since the first set. Her serve. Her first serve is going in, and she's got a lot of pace on it, and her forehand's been going in. She hasn't hit only 16 winners on the backhand side. She split some of those with her forehand, so that's made a big difference.
On serve in the third set. Tomorrow, Steffi Graf to meet the winner. On the baseline. Very few points at the net. Maleva dictated the points, and now it's Chris that's dictating the play.
She is moving Maleva from side to side, and before she really didn't have the confidence to go for it down the line, especially on her forehand. Her backhand was always good, but the forehand has really made a big difference in the last set and this set.
That's 7 straight points for Chris. Two more chances to go up 3-1 in the third.
Chris really went for it on that point, but when you've got a shot, it's love 40, you can go for the line, because now if she wants, she can play safe, work the ball around, do what she has to do to win the point. Two break points saved by Maleva, and now a very big point in this match. Maleva 6-1 in the first. Evert Lloyd answered 6-2 in the second, 1-2 in the third. Break point for Evert Lloyd.
Ooh.
And an ace for Maleva, her second.
Deuce.
Good time to have an ace.
Not bad. I'm still looking for my first.
Now that was a shot where a drop shot, that was a pretty dicey shot to try. She should have gone down the line in her approach shot, but she doesn't do it too much, so she had to go for the high percentage drop shot. And Chris was really right there. She was going to get it.
4 chances for Chris to break, and one must wonder now if Maleva can hold, what that will do to her veteran opponent. just wide. Drifted, pushed by the wind. Well, Maleva showing Joanne again in that rally that she can go to the one hand on the backhand side and slice the ball effectively.
Well, that's what you have when you start out when you're little. You have a one-handed backhand, and actually her arm is probably stronger because she had a one-handed backhand.
Maleva survives 4 break points. It's 2-all in the third.
3-all.
Love 40. So Maleva, if she had any moments of discouragement after being caught, has shed them.
Look at Chris's angle. Now this is a tough shot. She just takes the pace off the ball, angles it. Now watch. Maleva's way off the court, hits the line, takes a bad bounce. Hey, you'll take anything against Chris. Need all the help we can get.
It's a painter's stroke.
And she disguised that well because her racket was above her shoulders, and to drop shot from up there is very difficult. Chris anticipated well. I mean, this is a very tricky shot, drop shotting and approaching, but notice she anticipates well and she's got very quick feet. Sometimes she doesn't close in on the net, but she makes up for it.
Foot fault called.
Whoa.
Chris Bolin on the baseline.
And Stefan Edberg answers back 1-all in Dallas against Mcenroe.
That is the classic no man's land.
No woman's land, Joanne. No woman's land,
but
please.
You're so picky. Whatever. Your coach never tells you, you either go back or get in. Never stand in that middle area because you can get trapped just like Chris did.
Maleva is showing me something in this match. She had some reputation maybe getting down or getting emotionally negative, and she had the bad call, and lost the lead. Chris seemed to be in control, and all of a sudden here she is battling back at 2-all and Deuce in the third set.
It's wonderful, really, because you talk about no woman's land. This is no Maleva's land here. Everybody in the ballpark except her mother and grandparents are Chryseites. She's the house heroine.
Ooh, what a backhand.
First break point for Maleva in the third set.
And she hits this ball so well. Early preparation, down the line, she stays down. That is a great shot. Chris is really playing tough here. She moves Maleva off the court to set up her approach. She comes in, and this is a tough shot. The wind blows the ball back behind her, and she has to go to the sort of the Jimmy Connors swing overhead.
Sky hook.
Sky hook. Couldn't remember the name of that.
Wind is increasing. And in mentioning Maleva's guttiness in this match, Dick, don't forget she saved 4 break points in the previous game. I think this is the best pair of semifinals we've had in this tournament in the history of the event. Most exciting anyway.
2 years ago, all 4 women were involved in the same semifinals, just played different people.
Because of the length of this match, we'll not be able to show you any of the Steffi Graf Gabriela Sabatini semifinal played this morning. Double fault back to Deuce. Third double fault for Chris Evert Lloyd. Graf won 6-3, 2-6, 7-6, 7-5 in the tiebreaker, and the match point was a shot forehand on the line.
Return of serve. She ran around her backhand and belted it. Did Steffi.
So Graf, who has not lost all season, won her 16th match and will be in the finals against the winner of this semi.
And Chris is really working Maleva over the court. She hits this one down the line, and it has to be perfect. It was 2 inches from the sideline, about 1 inch from the baseline. That is a perfect backhand.
Chris Evert Lloyd holds. They're on serve. 3-2 in the third. Maleva serving 2-3 in the third. Win picking up the first win we've really had this week at Sea Pines Plantation here at Hilton Head. But the sunshine consistently here. What a wonderful week of weather.
No, it's funny that Chris is playing Maleva's backhand. Maleva's backhand is very steady. I mean, she doesn't miss it very much, and it's kind of a strength. She makes more errors on the forehand side. I can't believe that Chris keeps playing it. Maleva shows a little drop shot touch there. She has Chris running up to the net, and she just has an easy ball to the opening.
Yeah, Maleva's mother coached her. Yulia was the Bulgarian champion 9 times, all the way till 1980. So they pretty well dominated the Bulgarian title, kept it in the family.
Been one and one only professional championship, however, played in Bulgaria. That was a Grand Prix event a few years ago. Ricky Meyer, New Yorker, won it, and so he considers himself the one, the only, the perpetual champion of Bulgaria. Isn't that a wonderful honor?
Forever and ever. Huh?
Yes, in perpetuity. Now, there should be a let called. A program fell out of the stands right behind Maleva, but they're playing on.
Well, that wind is really tricky now.
It's blowing into Evert Lloyd's face.
And blew that one right to the baseline.
Whew.
What a big point at 30-15.
30 all.
And Chris just sticks into this point. Notice how she's back against the linesman, and Maleva comes in, but doesn't make a very good volley. And again, she keeps the ball just in play. She has a shot here to win, and she goes for too much angle. Another mistake.
Instead of 40-15.
A big mistake.
It's 30 all. Chances to break Maleva 2 games ago, but failed. Another opening to go up 4-2.
Actually, it's very fortunate that the wind is blowing into Chris's face, because a few times she hit some forehands that really looked like they were going to float out. Huh? And the wind just held them right down there on the baseline.
At the net by Maleva. She's broken, and Evert Lloyd has the lead 4-2. Let me ask you about the wind, Joanne. For those of us in the hacking corps, it's a real advantage to play into the wind. I mean, because the wind keeps your ball in play. Is it that sizable an advantage for the good player?
Well, it would be for Chris, because she has good ground strokes. And she can hit into the wind. She's got power on her backhand, keep the ball low, and her forehand floats a little bit, so it helps her.
How about you? Did you like playing with the wind or into the wind?
I'm a with the wind player, because I'm serving and volleying, so everything I can get behind my serve helps. And my volley, compared to Maleva's, was much more forceful. I really went.
Is it that sizable an advantage for the good player?
Well, it would be for Chris, because she has good ground strokes. And she can hit into the wind. She's got power on her backhand, keep the ball low. And her forehand floats a little bit, so it helps her.
How about you? Did you like playing with the wind or into the wind?
I'm a with the wind player, because I'm serving and volleying, so everything I can get behind my serve helps. And my volley, compared to Maleva's, was much more forceful. I really went for the shot. She sort of poops them up, and it doesn't help her.
knockout.
Major League Baseball to follow. The Braves and Mets, the Dodgers and the Giants here on NBC. As soon as we conclude the semifinal match from center court at Sea Pines Plantation.
Well, Chris is moving up wisely at times, and that was one of them. But if she doesn't make the first shot at the net, then she's in difficulty.
Gives you an idea of that last graphic, 76-74 points won, how close the match has been. Double fault number 4.
The only thing it really wouldn't help with Chryses is her overhead, which is not her strength, and serve. Which shows there Chris has 4 double faults to Maleva's 1.
Evert Lloyd earns the lead 4-2 and then sees Maleva sitting on 2 break points. Chance to get back even. Talking about tiebreakers. Mcenroe's turn. And he leads 2-1 in Dallas.
Jimmy Van Allen, the originator of the tiebreaker, must love it.
Maleva breaks back. They're on serve. 4-3 Evert Lloyd in the third. Stan Smith will join us in our coverage from Paris and Wimbledon. I believe when they name this center court the Stan Smith court. On the line.
15
Already chiseled. They ever name a court after you, Bud?
Not a court. The cell once.
Dirty love.
And now Chris is with the win, so that forehand gets a little extra oomph. She doesn't have a lot of topspin to keep it in, so she's going to have to watch where she places the ball. She can't quite go for the lines.
That would have been a terrific drop into the wind, but with the wind it held up for Maleva.
And it's not a bad drop shot, but look at Maleva's placement. And Chris gets there in time, but it's just held up by the wind. Maleva can get a racket on it.
A point from 4-all in the third. In that exchange.
40-15.
Well, when you're down 40 love, you might as well give it a ride. And she really puts her racket on this one. She hits the line.
40-15. Wind carrying that one long, and it's 4-all in the third. Reminder, stay tuned. Baseball to follow. The Braves and the Mets from Shea Stadium, New York. Some of you will see the Giants and Dodgers from Los Angeles. Baseball game of the week.
8 points, Richard, from the final. Who bends? That's what it is right now.
2 outstanding, well-contested semifinal matches today. The first semi went to a tiebreaker in the third. Steffi Graf won that tiebreaker 7-5 to advance to tomorrow's finals. To defend her championship, won last year, her first ever major title, first time she'll ever be defending her championship. 17-year-old West German against either Chris Evert Lloyd or Manuela Maleeva.
Good rally, good deception here. Maleva takes the pace off the ball close to the net. Chris gets up here and just drops it over the net for a winner.
Extraordinary touch, because just getting there, just getting a racket on it and punching it over the net anyway is what most people would have been happy to do. She hits a winner. Mother Courage still has legs.
That's an underrated part of her talent, isn't it? Her court movement. Chris Evert Lloyd, she's never really received her due in that regard.
Well, maybe non-tennis players, but anyone who's played her knows she is always in position for the ball.
That hurts Maleva. You can see it in her face. An easy second ball. To give away a cheapie, there have been few cheap points. Very few since the first set when Chris Evert Lloyd was giving them all.
Capricious wind. It appears as if that's a good shot and sails wide.
Tried that shot because that's the fourth point that she's tried that drop shot going behind Maleva. We'll see it here coming up where she's misjudged and the wind has taken it out off of her racket. That's the third one on that particular side.
Strange. So from 40, love to deuce. Four all in the third.
In the fourth game of this set, she was up love 40 on Maleva's serve and let it slip away. That's very unusual for Chris. So she certainly wants to win this game because there's no way she wants that to happen twice.
There's no way she wants Maleva serving for the match.
And while Chris Evert Lloyd is the favorite here on the island, let's not forget what an excellent match Maleva has played. She's had plenty of chances to give in. On the line.
Now the difference between Chris making this drop shot and the other 4 that she missed, she drop shotted right in front of her. She didn't go cross court. It was a percentage drop shot.
Just long. Ooh, hit the tape.
Overdoing it, Joanne?
Just a little bit.
And with that, Manuela Maleeva, break point to go up 5-4 in the third. Baseball to follow. Fourth deuce in this 9th game. Third set, 6-1 Maleva in the first set.
That was the biggest point of the match. She absolutely had Chris on the ropes.
And she hit it well. She was very unlucky.
And into the wind, it appeared that would stay in. Chris won the second set 6-2, and here we are at deuce, 4-all in the third. Mcenroe
Won it.
has defeated Stefan Edberg 4 sets in Dallas. Big win for Mack.
I admire the way this kid is holding together. Chris loses a point, they all groan. Chris wins a point, the place goes crazy. She stood out here lonely against the house heroine and can still win it.
She's hanging in there.
Third chance to break for Maleva. Swinging volley by Evert Lloyd in that win.
I tell you, that was the chanciest shot I have ever seen. She didn't exactly hit that near the baseline either.
Sixth deuce of this ninth game at 4-all in the third.
Was in big trouble here. She hits the ball down the middle of the court and she just pops up that drop volley. Look how much time Maleva has, but Chris really didn't even guess. She anticipated that shot so well into the open court. Winner shot.
On the line. But we know that Tony Kubek has plenty to say. He's been busy again this week, quoted often. Baseball in April, and so many fans who couldn't wait for the start of it all. We got two big games coming up for you right after the conclusion of this match. And what a match.
Maleva hits a drop shot that Chris can get to, and watch, she takes a very short backswing and just punches it up the line. That is a very nice shot.
Now a let should be called again. A sign just fell down behind, and Chris looks over there.
That had to be distracting to her.
But nothing happens. Now the umpire, obviously Bunny Williams hasn't seen it. That they should stop play and take that sign fully down.
Well, Chris should know better. I mean, she's been around.
She should have called a let. That's right. Chris should have said, I want a let. Well stated, Joanne.
Me, I'd make them come right out and pull that right off the wall.
times she's tried that tactic and won twice.
Let's go back to the point before where there's the sign that eventually will fall. There it is with the serve almost on cue. And yet either the concentration of Evert Lloyd so strong that it didn't bother her, or she just is not going to acknowledge it. Maleva point away from 5-all. Such a terrific shot for Chris Evert Lloyd all day.
And it's a much better shot from this side because it's against the wind. It holds the ball. Watch, it barely comes up off the ground, and Maleva has little or no chance at that ball.
Sounded like the ball hit the line, but ball is called.
Maleva holds, and it's 5-all. Family Circle here from Hilton Head Island, South Carolina, being brought to you by Kraft, which brings you good food and good food ideas. By the heartbeat of America, today's Chevrolet. By Del Monte Fruit Snacks. Del Monte, we grow great snacks. And by the makers of A1 Steak Sauce. All in the third. The other semifinal went to a tiebreaker in the third set, won by Steffi Graf over Gabriela Sabatini.
I think she missed it. Yeah.
Oh, boy.
For Maleva.
Maleva is not accepting that call. She's coming up to the net.
It was a late call, but I believe a good one.
Ed Gibbons delayed putting out his hand, but we're on that line, as is he, and I think he was correct. And every close call has gone against Maleva. There's no doubt of that. Whether she's correct in her reasoning, we don't know, but every close call has gone against her. And what a big point that was.
See if we can see from this angle. It's going to be tough.
Scramble.
Oh, that was out.
Thank you, Joy. When Maleva first played Chrissy, U.S. Open third round 4 years ago, she was 16, and after she'd lost in straight sets, she was so elated. She said, that is the thrill of my life, to just be on the same court. Of course, the thrill is gone now, and she wants to win.
12-1, Evert Lloyd in their career matches. Italian Open 3 years ago belonging to Maleva. There have been some tight squeezes for Evert Lloyd in those 12 wins. Double fault, number 5. And with it, 2 break points for Maleva to go up 6-5. Takes the lead 6-5 and will be serving for the match. Let's stay right here and talk about this drama. I think a lot of folks in the 5,000 who arrived here today to see these two semifinals are looking for and received an excellent semi in the first match won by Steffi Graf, but many felt that this would be Chris Evert Lloyd's semi, that Maleva wouldn't give her this kind of serious challenge, and now it's Maleva who will be serving to go to the finals. Joanne Russell.
Well, that's true. I don't think people thought she would give her this tough a challenge, but I mentioned earlier that last week she won a $75,000 tournament in Wild Dunes, and she said that gave her a lot of confidence. And it's the truth. A lot of good players, top players, have gone to play in a $75,000 tournament and lost in the first round because the women that play in those tournaments are hungry. So gave her a lot of confidence, and it's reflected here.
Yesterday, they honored Chris Evert Lloyd here at Sea Pines Plantation. They're going to have a Hall of Fame, and they asked her, Jack Jones there, to leave her footprints in concrete. Well, right now, she must feel like she still has some of that on the bottom of her tennis shoes, as Maleva has her in a sticky spot.
They had all the former champions. Steffi Graf was in the concrete, Rosie Casals, and the other two champions, Martina Navratilova and Tracy Austin, have been invited to make their marks.
Now we come down to Maleva serving for the match and a position in the finals tomorrow. Major League Baseball's game of the week to follow immediately after the final point.
And you think back to that fourth game when Maleva came out of love 40. She would have been down 3-1, but she held serve.
Authority. Maleva serving for the finals. Chris Evert Lloyd trying to break and force the tiebreaker in the third.
Now there's an overrule, and Maleva, I thought I heard it hit the line.
I thought I did too. I mean, she has a definite argument here.
Arnie Burdick put his hands down to signify the ball was good. Bunny Williams overruled. So it's second serve.
Well, it's good.
Against Maleva.
Maleva just went back and made up her mind, okay, I'm serving.
3 overrules, all against Maleva.
To the sound of Maleva's racket, and you can really hear the kind of loose, springy sound. And I asked Lori McNeil, who strings her racket very loosely, it's really a springy sound.
Now let's listen.
And when you're serving at love 30 to get a cheap point, what a beautiful sight, that ball passing over the baseline.
Wow, 30 to 30 all. 2 points from the finals, Manuela Maleeva.
And she has hung tough
She really
against
has.
the sentiments of the crowd, against 3 overrules by the umpire against her.
What a tough overhead into the wind for a break point, Chris Evert Lloyd.
And what makes this overhead so good is the angle. She didn't really hit it that hard because she was backing up, but she aimed it very well.
Overhead, Chris's head.
Well, it was prophetic, Bud Callens. You said the best semifinal day in the 15-year history of this tournament, and
No doubt now, Dick.
underlined by a pair of tiebreakers in the third.
You wouldn't find many tournaments ever that went down to 2 tiebreakers in 2 semifinal matches.
So immediately a mini break from Maleva. You would think that everything's on the side of Chris Evert Lloyd now. She's battled back to break Maleva, to force a tiebreaker, the experience, past records, home crowd advantage. Yet
she's up against a very big heart on this occasion. Maleva is not letting herself be fazed by anything.
Had her chances on this last point, and she does the right thing because she was out of the point on the overhead, played it back down the middle, and instead Maleva guessed the right way and put Chris on the defensive, and then she had the open court. Ooh, what a return serve.
So the mini break erased by that shot that painted the line from Chris Evert Lloyd. It's 1-2.
The forehand giving Chris Evert Lloyd trouble in the first set. Now 2 backhand errors in the breaker.
On that backhand side, and a 4-1 lead for Maleva, up 2 mini breaks.
Chris has to have one of these points. She's got to get a split here. Or she'll be facing 5 match points.
Yeah, some good hitting here at center court at Sea Pines Plantation, and more of the same coming up. Braves and Mets. How about that Strawberry? He really clubbed one last night. A shot, a 3-run homer for the Mets. Off to a great start. The Giants and Dodgers, one of the great sports rivalries out in Los Angeles. Some of you will see that immediately following this semifinal from the family circle. No score. Both games have started. They're in the first inning. So Evert Lloyd, after pushing that forehand in the net, is 2 points from being eliminated.
Was that a choky forehand, Joanne?
Very choky. Wow, nerves of steel, if you ask me. 3-5. When you're down 2-5 to try this shot, this is nerves of steel. This is no choke here.
Another must point for the server.
5-3. Redefining the importance of the drop.
There's not a lot of people I know who could do that when they're down 5-3 in the tiebreaker, 2 times in a row, once on the backhand, once on the forehand.
You're looking at her. She's the only one.
So
but
from 5-2 to 5-4.
Oliva thought she heard that center line again, but she is not going to even question it. She's got to concentrate. Oh my. Oh, that's terrible. People are applauding the double fall.
That underlines how tough it's been for her today.
That's lousy. She has struggled. She has played so magnificently.
And has match point. Evert Lloyd serving at 5-6. Manuela Maleeva. 6-1, 2-6, 7-6, 7-5 in the tiebreaker. And tomorrow, Manuela Maleeva, the 20-year-old from Bulgaria, one of her biggest wins ever, will meet the #2 player in the world, Steffi Graf, for the championship here on NBC. Stay tuned for the baseball game of the week.
Ladies and gentlemen, if I can have your attention a minute, please. I'm Rob Reichel, Director of Tennis for Sea Pines Resorts. I want to welcome you to a special presentation. Stand by. Since 1972,
Manuela, congratulations on a marvelous win. Did you think you could pull it off in a place like this where everyone was obviously cheering for Chris?
I knew from the beginning, since we hit the first ball, that I have a chance. But it was really difficult, and I think the crowd really helps her. But at one point, I just said to myself that I'm forgetting about everything and just play every point. There was no other way.
When you double faulted to 5-all in the tiebreaker and people cheered, did that upset you?
Now that you tell me, I remembered that this happened, but otherwise I didn't think about it.
You were concentrating.
I was, yeah.
Why do you feel you were able to beat her?
Because I felt very good on the court. I was not tired at all. Now I have the feeling that I could go for 2 more hours. And I felt that she was a little bit tired. And this usually doesn't happen. She's the one who is tired at the end. And then I was really trying to hit every ball back.
How do you feel about playing Steffi Graf in the final?
I haven't thought about this yet. But the last match we played was very